Well, fellas, we all woke up an hour earlier for nothing. All right. That's right. The UFC 303 press conference, which was supposed to be taking place in Dublin, Ireland, following this show, it's been canceled. The fuck, right? Are we shocked here? I mean, it is really, really frustrating, and it's starting to get scary. A fight card so big, we had already planned on talking about it on SVC, and maybe not for the right reasons, but this cancellation doesn't help our fears that this main event isn't a lock in any way, shape, or form. So let's get into it. What's your reaction? Like, I know we're going to speculate here a little bit, right? But come on, we can connect dots. Are you guys getting scared? Mike Bond, you get the first take.
I mean, scared of the fight being canceled. I guess that's like what our bigger concern here, like what's really going on. I mean, you kind of try to put all the pieces together here, what really happened. This is obviously announced last week, and I know lots of people flew over there. We had some staff ourselves going to cover this, and I asked Dana White about it at the press conference on Saturday, more so tying into like the videos of McGregor at the club and stuff that have been coming out, just any concerns, and he kind of pushed it away a little bit, saying not too worried about it, but he was going to see Conor tomorrow, and he's like, I'll have my chance to face. And you wonder if, Dana flying over there, if him meeting with Conor, if anything happened between them that maybe led to this. You don't want to like overly speculate because, maybe this was postponed, as the UFC called it. I don't know if they're actually planning on rescheduling this before like fight week or anything like that. But you wonder, like, maybe something more personal is going on, and that led to this, in which case hope everyone is doing okay. But from what we know, as far as like the facts, Dana went over there after the event. Ariel Helwani reported Michael Chandler was told before getting on the plane from Florida that this wasn't going to happen, so he didn't get out there. And I know a lot of people had flown over there, and there was some media scheduled for Sunday, like with television partners and stuff, for Conor to do interviews. And I believe it was reported, I can't remember exactly who I saw, I think it was Chisanga, had tweeted out that none of those obligations happened Sunday. So it doesn't seem anything is going on here as far as like this actually materializing, but the exact reason I haven't been able to find out yet. I put in a few message requests, things like that, but haven't been able to get any firm answers. So anything we say kind of in this segment about that is going to be just that speculation. But yeah, lots of red flags out there right now.
Goes, how about you, man? Let's speculate. No, I mean, seriously, like we follow up with Conor McGregor on social media. He's very public figure, and we've said that doesn't look like a guy that's training for a huge fight. What are your thoughts here on what might have taken place? I mean, look, if it's personal, obviously, then we hope the best for him, right? If there's something like a family issue or anything like that, but no one's thinking that, and we got to keep it real.
But I feel like unfortunately, like, I mean, you don't want to root for that, but that's the only thing that kind of makes sense here. I feel like even if it were a little bit of a tiff or something, I feel like they could still do the press conference and then just work around that. So many people get burned with something like this. Outlets send people. A lot of people, it's not cheap to fly out there, and these obligations. Look, Michael Chandler's always game, so he's not part of this equation. It's just Conor McGregor, man. It's what we're used to. It's just been a while since we've been through it, right? But here we are again. I don't have that feeling that the fight's in jeopardy, but it is just kind of annoying, and it's something that goes with the territory when you have a Conor McGregor fight.
Nolan, let's go down this black hole. So a few weeks ago, Dana White did say that his head of PR came up with a great idea, and I was talking to Mike pre-show about this, and apparently that was the great idea of this press conference they were going to have in Dublin, Ireland, where, look, when they did it with Jose Aldo, they hit it out of the park. Michael Chandler was game to fly over there. Dana White already flew over there. So it probably would have been, it would have been a hit. Like I said, our Junkie was going to be there as well. But that's not the case. That's not what's happening here. So what do you think, man? Like, what's your gut tell you? I know you don't have the facts. We've made the calls. We put in, right? Is this a money issue? Could this be what used to be called a USADA issue, and I guess it's now a DSFI issue or something? An injury? Like, what do you think could have happened?
guess it's got to go into one of two categories for me just because of the way that this was announced, right? Like if this was a pipe burst in the venue, or if somebody got sick, or if something happened, you would think maybe they would give a reason as to why everything's getting canceled. But for 12 hours before the event was supposed to start for this to get dropped, where, you know, I think it was, I saw somebody online say 8,000 tickets for this from
Really?
fans. So and granted, they were
Wow.
all free. You know, it's not like these people lost money in that regard, but maybe some people traveled or, you know, took work off or stuff like that. So it's just such a non-ideal sort of scenario to cancel something like that on a whim. And then to not give a reason has to be, in my opinion,
Mhm.
something that either means something that could potentially interfere with the fight. I'm not saying fights off, or maybe there's
That's the
some
scary
sort
thing.
of contract thing going on, who knows, or it's something personal, a personal issue, maybe like a family member, something that's more in somebody's private life and they don't want to say. But some of the stuff I'm hearing kind of is that McGregor was training pretty normally leading up to this, as of a few days ago. So I'm not necessarily sure exactly, like Mike said, this is kind of speculatory at this point. But it's unfortunate because I think this would have been some of the more unique fight promotion we've seen in a while, kind of leaning into a throwback, turning the clock back, you know, in a kind of a fun way, that Conor McGregor's back now. We're going back to Ireland to do a press event. We haven't been here forever. And him and Chandler are going to kind of be able to mouth off in front of a crowd for the first time since this fight's been announced. So definitely a bummer, definitely unfortunate for Abby Subban, who's over there right now, although I think he might, he'll have a pint or two before he comes home. So I guess that's a plus, but yeah, just a bummer all the way around, man. I guess we'll have to, I'm sure the UFC is going to have to say something. The next time Dana shows up anywhere, he's going to probably be asked this question first.
Abby should go to the Black Forge Inn and do an off guard if he's game around 3 a.m. Mike, tell me something here. You know, you only use the word unique, and I get what he's saying, but I have a theory. Ryan Garcia pulled something off in boxing a few weeks ago where, you know, he was putting on this whole look like I'm partying, don't take me serious. And then, of course, he says it was a big troll job. Conor doesn't like to get one-upped in combat sports or even sports in general. Do you think maybe he was taking that path of, hey, it looks like I'm doing this, but a real G was going to show up? Remember, we thought Jose Aldo was going to phone it in, and he whooped Jonathan Martinez.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I think that's what like Dana was kind of alluding to in his answer, being like, well, in one video he looks like this, in another he looks like that. I don't really know. Like if you do look through those videos, it's not like Conor's like pounding shots and like has, you know, beers in each hand, stuff like that. It doesn't necessarily look like, you know, it looks like he's just having his fun. Obviously, it's just tiny snippets of parts of the night. You don't know what you're not seeing otherwise, but in those footage, you know, it looks like he's just having a good time as opposed to, you know, being blackout drunk or something like that. So maybe that is part of the promising element. I mean, you can still enjoy your life. You're training only so many hours a day. You have a lot of other hours to do things, even if you're in a camp. So maybe we don't want to be too hard on him in that regard. But yeah, there could be an element of that. Conor is the master of mind games. And if you're Michael Chandler, being the astute hard worker that he is, and you wake up for your 6 a.m. session on whatever day and you see clips of Conor at the club 5 weeks out from the fight, maybe it makes you feel a little different going to the training session that morning or whatever it might be. So it could be part of that. With this press conference, like they didn't need to do it, right? This fight could have happened still later this month without it. And I think we'd still be equally hyped. It would be a nice part of the promotion and you get some good clips out of it that you could factor into, you know, the countdown show or all these promotional elements. But even if you didn't have it, it would have been fine. So we just hope we get to the fight, because if we want to start going down that road of what happens if Conor isn't showing up or if this fight doesn't happen, you got a $20+ million gate. You have a pretty weak pay-per-view card in terms of like doing something that could maybe save this event if this fight were to not happen. But as of now, we don't have any concrete reason to feel it won't happen. We know Conor McGregor, when he signs that contract, he shows up. That's been part of his entire imagery and part of the reason, you know, UFC sold him as they have and loved him. So it would be unprecedented for Conor and his history to not show up to the fight for whatever reason. So I'm not going to go too far down that road, but yeah, this is obviously, as I said earlier, a bit of a red flag, and we'll see what happens as more information comes out. But I am sitting here right now with the utmost belief still we see Michael Chandler and Conor McGregor in that octagon June 29th.
I think the closest we had was McGregor was fumbling the UFC 200 preparations, and Dana White penalized him a couple shows.
Yeah.
But showing up to fights, the guy does show up to fights, but he has messed about before, and the UFC has checked him. Although that McGregor, who was huge back then, is even way more huge now. It's a mess.
I think if he is playing mind games, like the only people we can pull that over is the audience, you know, maybe over us. But Michael Chandler, that ain't gonna stop him from working out. Like George, we've seen him when he's not in camp, he doesn't miss workouts. Like that dude is gonna train his ass off. He's been waiting a long time. I don't think those games will work on him if that's what Conor's trying to do.
All right. Well, as we get more information, obviously here at MMA Junkie, we will be reporting it. Right now, there just isn't anything of substance other than the press conference has been canceled. But that's why we started early, because we were going to transition from there to Dublin, Ireland. We had one of our colleagues. He's out there actually right now, and this is something we heard of overnight. Like Mike Bond stated, they told Chandler, don't even hop on the plane. So it's not Chandler related if you're late to the show here.